What's up, everybody? I am super pumped to catch up with a longtime friend, someone that I've known for a long time. I consider him absolutely, one of the best podcasters in the mortgage space. It's among the best of the best. Any loan officer, any leader, also realtors. I mean, just anyone that wants to win with marketing. Make sure you follow this guy's podcast. How is the podcast going, Geoff?
Thank you for asking, Dave. And it's an honor and pleasure to be here. I think we've known each other. It's got to be at least a decade now. So really appreciate the continued friendship over the years. Podcast a while back passed its 300th episode. So what started out as you know what, I think I want to talk to some loan officers and bring some cool ideas to them. Like that was a while ago. So it's grown and it's really become kind of it was a passion project from the beginning and still is. Now it's just really, really exciting. My whole thing, it's funny. I went through this exercise recently. My whole thing is I wanted to be a mentor, right? Because I didn't really have one in a variety of different capacities, either as we're taking a quick spin here, Dave, but either as a dad position or like even my first job, in the for Countrywide Home Loans, my first job was like, here's your cards, go get some realtors, right? So I was like, man, oh man, there's got to be a better way. Anyway, that's always been my DNA, is to like learn, what really works and bring those ideas to the people. That's really what I'm trying to do.
Well, you do a great job. And then you authored a book a couple years ago, Disrupt or Die, which I loved the title of that book, and I love the book. How's that going? You still selling strong?
Yeah, I just received notice from my people who fulfill that they're out of copies. So if people want to get a copy of the free book, it's getdisruptordie.com is where you can get that. Just cover shipping and we'll get a free book to you.
Well, guys, this guy is always ahead of the curve. He's always super smart. In a very unique way, he understands the dynamics between mortgage and real estate professionals. Something that I'm very committed to, both in my full-time day role at Trust Engine. It's like, how do we turn the mortgage industry into the captain of the wealth team and connect better with realtors than the nonprofit First Home IQ? It's all about turning loan officers and realtors into the first responders to the financial literacy crisis in America. And what are your thoughts on just mortgage and real estate professionals? Not I'm not going to ask you the basics, should they be partnering, but like, what are some of the nuances that are different? And what are some of the ways that you're seeing loan officers and realtors partner in this market?
That's interesting. And I'm thinking about that in the context of the NAR situation and the lawsuits and all that, and I'm sure you as well as I have been having conversations with different people across the country about how we should respond to that as mortgage originators. And I think it's kind of unique in that, to your point a moment ago, it's like we always should have been partnering, right? It's like we know that, but I think for a long time, for some people that was like lip service, or it wasn't front and center. It was just, kind of a necessary evil, right? When you look at it from the originator standpoint of like, realtors, right? And then the baggage that goes with that. But I think what's happening with that NAR situation, and of course, there's a lot of yet to be determined about that. But from the folks that I'm talking to that I think are smarter than me, are saying that more than ever, it should be the vehicle that really propels you to partner with a real estate agent now. Because first of all, let's just make it clear, consumers using a real estate agent isn't going away, right? It's not going away. Now, what does that look like in the future? Who knows? What's going to happen with buyer's agents? There's a lot of different varying opinions on that. The truth is nobody really knows. However, whether that means the listing agent, or whatever, but still an agent is going to be involved in the transaction. So I'm basically, doing two things with loan officers. Is one, helping to facilitate those partnerships even more through education, because realtors need help. They need direction in a variety of different fronts. We can talk more about that. But secondly, this is the opportunity that originators have to get further up in the funnel, right? Which I know you help originators with, obviously, in a great way. But if there was ever a time to like double down on your personal brand and put content out there to create awareness and engagement, this is it, right? Because you are now invited to be further up in the funnel. And people, I'm sure you're talking to people every week, Dave, as am I, Google business profiles and, content and video and all that, you're getting to the conversation sometimes earlier than the real estate agent. So I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't think the agents are, quote, going away.
Yeah, no, I kind of led you into that whole topic a little bit, but I think it comes down to that it's never been more important for agents to prove their value. Like why am I paying you so much? And I think it's never been more important for loan officers to make not just close loans on time at great rates, but the advice experience, focus on helping people achieve wealth with real estate. Like if I'm a realtor, I'm leaning into, beyond the transaction. I'm going to help you, buy the home, get the right price, handle all these transactional issues. But I'm here to help you achieve financial freedom, home ownership and financial freedom. And so I just think mortgage and real estate professionals getting better at being lifelong advisors and really delivering on that promise. I mean, it's easy to say that, I help you achieve home ownership with financial freedom faster. Like that's easy to say. It takes a lot of skill to actually deliver on that promise. But I do believe if you have the skill, if you run the playbook, if you really do everything that a mortgage professional or a realtor does to deliver on that promise, like the best days are ahead for you. Like you're going to take market share, you're going to kill it. You're going to turn this, sea shift in housing into an opportunity for you.
Yeah, it's a unified front. I mean, that's what we need to have together, is that unified front of a real estate agent and a mortgage advisor. Because obviously with the first time home buyers, the next gen, with them being the next up and coming kind of segment of the market for buying a home. Let's face it, this very well, is that they need to be educated, right? And so the realtors are going to be the smart realtors, the ones who survive are going to want to build that team. You call it the wealth team, right? That team of people, advisors that can help put the arms around these people who need navigation. And by the way, the NAR thing just creates even more confusion, right? For consumers. Like they don't even know what the hell that means.
Right.
And I saw a post the other day that was some, how these surveys go, where it was like 30 or 40% of the sellers didn't know, according to this survey, that they paid the buyer's commission. I was like, what?
Right.
Like, how's that possible? And then, so we could riff on that for a second. But the cool point I loved about that was the person making that post was clarifying that the seller doesn't pay the buyer's commission. The listing agent does.
Right.
Right. So let's just be clear. And there's just so much noise and confusion around that conversation right now, in addition to buying and timing and interest rates and housing and all that kind of stuff, which, you just had Sean on, and you've had so many great people on that are, creating these destinations, these brands of engagement, of content that people they're looking. Here's what I love to say. People are always looking for context, right? Especially when things are chaotic, so they can make sense of what's going on. And once they make sense of that, they can then make an informed decision. But are they getting the context from you, or are they just getting, rates and fees and, basic average stuff?
Yeah, well, basic and average stuff does not cut it going forward. So let's just take on the headline head on, because, the headline to this call is the number one strategy to get more agent referrals. And at the end of the day, that's what loan officers want. I mean, realtors are still the alpha partner, and probably will be for many, many years to come. I did a post called "How do you get agent attraction?" I can't remember exactly what it was, but got a lot of really good ideas on that. Make sure if you're watching this, you're following our Facebook group, and we have a lot of topics on this. But what is the number one strategy? Like,
Yeah.
what is it? The number one, bring it.
The number one strategy. Well, I mean, simply stated, the number one strategy is to lead with education. Okay. But let me put that in some context is if you could visualize a pyramid, right? At the bottom of that pyramid of like the realtor prospecting pyramid, I'll call that, is on the bottom of that pyramid is the stage known as solicitor, right? Cold calls. And think about the perception of cold calls and soliciting. And you've heard some of the noise around the community now in terms of how tired agents are of getting those cold calls, right? The Monday, Tuesday updates, et cetera. So that's the lowest end of the pyramid. The next stage is vendor, right? And a vendor, what's a vendor all about? Products and pricing. It's a sales relationship. It's not seen as being equal. And therefore, you're stuck in that mode of being a vendor. And unfortunately, most originators perpetuate the vendor position. Why? Because they lead with products and pricing. And so you keep doing that loop over and over. Let me tell you about my product, my rates, and how I close on time, and et cetera, et cetera. What I'm suggesting as the number one way to answer your question is to enter the conversation with the perception as a peer, right? A peer looked at as with respect or as an equal. Now, how do you do that? There's a few different ways to do that. We've touched on, your social media presence. That's one way to actually have a perception or enter the conversation as a peer is have something good, have relevant content, right? That is on your various social media profiles. The other way, the more direct, if you will, in local market is to, as I said a moment ago, lead with education. What does that mean? In my world, that means you are teaching classes to real estate agents, both virtually and in person. It's a tried and true method that's been done for years, although I would say it's been done haphazardly for many, many years. But when it's done correctly and with the right agenda and focus, you will get conversations that scale. You will change the narrative and be seen as a peer. Trust will go up. Resistance will go down. Why? Because you're not doing what everyone else is doing, which is leading with products and pricing. You're actually helping agents solve problems. So that's the answer to the question.
All right. So I want everyone to, it's education. I want you to almost write on a piece of paper, product and pricing, and trust me, this is where most loan officers spend their time talking, explaining, bragging, highlighting. Put it over here. And then there is, what you called education, but I would call it advice, helping people think beyond what they would normally think. Like you only wow someone, you only really earn trust and respect when you're helping them think about things they hadn't thought about already. Mm-hmm. And the things that you're helping them think about that they hadn't thought of already, it has true value to them. You're not just like teaching them random things. You're like, this has to do with your, buying a home now or waiting, selling your listing that has a 2 or 3% rate and buying a new home, renting out that home. But your ability to have a conversation, help them think about those things differently in a way that's truly in their best interest. It is the North Star going forward. And I call it advice, education and advice. And then, by the way, I would almost put those two thoughts, they compete with each other, but they also synergize with each other. But then I would put a circle around it and write the word leadership, because at the end of the day, while I do agree you need to be that peer, you don't want to be like, I'm your mortgage guy or your mortgage girl. Like, no, I am a leader that helps people achieve wealth with real estate, get confidence and clarity in this difficult market, and achieve financial freedom. Like, if you can deliver on that promise, you're just going to kill it. So now when you said do actual training in person and virtually, give me some ideas on how you're helping loan officers do this, how you're coaching loan officers to do this. What are some real world, types of training and digital and in-person stuff?
Well, sure. A couple highlights on that. I would say right now, the people that I work with are doing two things across the country. They're teaching two classes. One of them is business planning for 2024, right? Yeah. Obviously standard stuff that everybody should be doing. And the other one is one of our newer classes, which is called Master the Market. which is how to close 2023 strong and dominate 2024. Another example of a class we've been doing all year is, ChatGPT. It's probably our best, our most well-attended class this year. Why? It obviously, right? It's hot. It's on everybody's minds. People want to understand and how to leverage it. There's a lot of noise out there. So essentially what, originators do is it's called train the trainer, right? So they come into my world and they leverage this system that we have that allows them to easily not become the expert per se, but become the messenger. So if you think about a real estate agent, what are the areas or issues that they often struggle with? It's marketing, it's social media, it's video marketing and editing and things like that. It's Google Business Profile, it's ChatGPT, it's how to get more listings, right? And so what we're doing is equipping originators with the platform to be able to learn that material, right, if you will, enough so that they can just be the messenger. They don't need to be the expert. They can rely on the content and deliver that and be a conduit for getting that agent educated on how to do those things. The purpose of all this is, as we said at the kind of the beginning, is positioning, right? If I'm positioning myself as a partner and peer, or said otherwise, if you want their business, you need to become part of their business, right? And the way you become part of their business is you roll up your sleeves and you get face to face, belly to belly with them, and you understand what are their struggles and challenges, and you identify those things, and you say, "Aha, I've got something for that. I've got something for that." And the why we do it as classes, by the way, in terms, this is it's the law of large numbers. It's leverage. Get yourself in front of 10 or 20 agents at a time instead of onesie twosie, right? You're going to get to where you need to go that much quicker, especially if you are doing, right, what we're talking about here, which is adding tremendous value and getting those conversations at scale. And then I guess last point on that is, I know you're familiar with the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. There's the concept in there of reciprocation. And when somebody, quote unquote, gives you something of value, right? I kind of hate to use that word in our industry, but you understand the concept. It's something that's meaningful and impactful to you. What do you want to do, Dave? You want to reciprocate back, right? And give somebody something back just as a thank you. And so what is that? In this case of real estate loan officer, it's, I'll take your call. I'll have a conversation. I'll talk to you about a potential partnership, and I will send you my next buyer, right? I will talk to you about a potential partnership. Or even more, Dave, here's some other examples. Would you come into my office and teach this to my team? Right? That happens when you start to continue to do this.
I love this conversation, brother. And I have been, interviewing a lot of the best, part of this Trust Engine 10X. If you go to trustengine.com/10X, I've done a lot of interviews, and a lot of the best are doing exactly what you're saying. If people wanted to learn more about, how you're doing it, obviously they can follow you on social media, they can listen to your podcast. Are there any other links or any other places people can go to learn more about this?
Sure. Thanks for the podcast. Just to mention that's Mortgage Marketing Radio. You can go check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. But if you want to learn more about how we're helping loan officers get referrals at scale, you can book a call with me. You go to mortgagemarketing.pro. That'll take you to a page whit'll share my calendar with you, mortgagemarketing.pro, and grab a 30-minute call, and we'll have a conversation, see if it's the right fit for you. But the stories, it's kind of phenomenal, because I got to be honest with you, Dave. When I started doing this first of all, I did this as an originator, right? 2003, kind of sucked for me the first year and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, gosh, I need to get more realtors fast. And, I got this whole story with it. Anyway, the bottom line is, this is what I realized is I need to get in front of more realtors in less time and with something valuable to offer them that isn't the norm. And so fast forward, when I decided to shift from originator to sales trainer coach, as you well know, I spent 4.5 years at Movement as a sales trainer and coach and all that stuff. And when I decided to kind of switch and serve the industry, if you will, right, from kind of like the heart of a teacher, total transparency here. When I decided I was going to lead with, I'm going to help originators teach classes, I kind of felt like I was missing out, because I wasn't talking about the sexy topics of social media and video and all that, right? That's so sexy and shiny. And then here's what I come to realize. to your point a second ago, the top producers, like 300 episodes, I probably interviewed 200 of America's top producers. You have as well. I know you know this. 8 out of 10 are doing some type of an event or class
Yeah,
out there. They definitely are,
absolutely. Yeah.
you know? And so I start to see these patterns and I'm like, wait a minute. Success leaves clues. This is what the top producers do. And then I've been doing this now for, I don't know, half a decade. And the success stories are crazy. And how fast this can happen if you just show up with something unique and valuable that actually makes an impact in their business. It's amazing what happens.
Well, I mean, they're not just delivering a message at scale. You're becoming better at your craft. So guys, go to this page. We put a link to it. I love your headline. Are you ready to go from solicitor and vendor to becoming a partner and peer? So I love your headline. I loved that you called out, within the network that you have, the number of classes you've delivered, the number of agent clients, always focused on business.
Yep.
Guys, go here and click, sign up. I can promise you a 30-minute conversation with this man is worth paying thousands of dollars. I notice here, Michelle Castle. I've interviewed Michelle a bunch of times. I know Michelle really well, two Michelles. So I know a lot of people on this page, and they're some of the best, most successful. And anyways, it's cool to see you're thriving, brother.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. We're just both giving back to the industry. That's kind of how I look at this.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard any of that interview I just did with Sean, but I just did my Tuesday interview with Sean Herrero, and someone had asked if I was going to do a first, and Sean was bragging about how, hey, I do this Friday video. And he said, hey, if I was going to start doing that Friday video, what should be in it? And then Sean recognized the person's name, and he's like, hey, such and such, you and I have been talking about this for 5 years. He's like, just do it. Just do it. So, and we laugh, but like, let's face it, there's a lot more loan officers out there that are not doing this, that they've heard of it, they know they should be doing it, than the loan officers doing it.
Right.
Like what you just said makes perfect sense. What advice do you have for that person that knows it, but they're not taking action? Why is this year different? Any advice you have for someone to kind of get off the fence? Like, I know I should start doing this, but they're not. Anything come to mind?
Well, yeah, I would say there's two parts to that. First of all, what I've discovered is that, teaching classes isn't right for everybody. Not everybody wants to do that, and that's okay, right? There's other methods you could go. I haven't seen a more effective or efficient one. The second one that comes close to me on that is social media in terms of reach and scale and impact. But the other part to that is if you're listening to this and you're kind of reluctant or whatever, or whatever the story is that you're telling yourself, I would say be aware that whatever you're telling yourself about why you can't, whatever that noise is, recognize that that's just a story. That's just BS. It's not true. And that if you're hearing something in this conversation that kind of pulls you in and draws you forward, act on it. Take one small step. I mean, it's just like, I always consider this to a plane getting off the runway. How much, there's a lot of energy and fuel that a plane burns before it gets off the runway. And so any marketing initiative you're going to launch is going to take a little bit of time and effort, right? If it's going to produce results. So I don't know if that helps, but it's just like, it's just a story, man. There's nothing you can't do. Just step forward in faith and courage and get yourself around a community who's going to support you.
Yeah, you can do it. And then don't you sometimes do actual training? Like, you have a level of service where you will do this for loan officers and put on their realtor training?
Yeah. And I still actually teach these classes every month here in Vegas as well. This keeps me like really my pulse on the market, like, Stewart Title and a lender. And we put those recorded videos in our platform so people can see, how does Geoff teach it? That's a part of the whole train the trainer thing. But yeah, I've done that a lot where originators just want to hire somebody to come in and teach a class. Absolutely.
Right on, right on. So guys, check it out. At a minimum, take a 30-minute call. This man will bring absolute value to you. Anything else just on the core topic? You know, I do have another question I want to ask you outside the core, but you know, anything else you want to make sure we share before we run out of time on how to, you know, leveraging education, digital, in person, you know, become the leader to realtors? Anything else?
I guess, the thing that popped in my mind is when you think about it's nice to do an activity that has multiple benefits from it, right? Like leveraged activity. So when you think about one to many, right? That's a leveraged activity when we're talking teaching agent classes. Not only is it one to many in terms of who you're in front of virtually or in person, and that relationship that you're building, but there's also the other opportunities or ripple effects that happen. Think about this. How often have you heard, Dave, I need a reason to call real estate agents instead of like you've
Yeah,
heard.
of
It's like,
course.
well, okay, great. So now if you're hosting an educational class or event, it's like, well, now you have that reason. What do I post on social media? Well, if you're doing a class or two a month, now you've got more content to post on social media, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So I guess let's look at the big picture of, I always like compare it to dropping that pebble in a pond of the ripple effect. What are the activities that you do that can create a ripple effect that are leveraged? This is one of them. I know you're obviously a huge fan of social media and the leveraged activity there. Those are the two biggest things that you should be doing today to build your personal brand and reach that audience. One of the classes I teach is like I talk about the three skills you need to build in any market, and one of those is you need to build an audience. That's the name of the game today, is build an audience. So where and how are you building that audience? Because that's where your future business is going to come from.
Cool. Well, hey, before we run out of time, I'm curious to hear some of your thoughts on ChatGPT, what
Well,
you're covering in your training, any thoughts you have on some of the other, um, you know, AI platforms that are out there for both mortgage and real estate. Uh, you know, where do you want to go with that? I mean, we could do a whole call on that, and I know you have a training on that, but
right.
I would love to just get some highlights from you on that before we wrap up.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I think so for ChatGPT specifically, right? It's continuing to evolve. We're seeing all these different add-ons and features being added to that. And I think that's one of those. That's a skill set, by the way, similar to how we had to learn to use this as a skill, holding the phone up and recording video and posting content. Learning how to use AI is a new skill too, right? And we're going to need to learn how to use AI properly and effectively. I'm also, cautious of getting too far down the rabbit hole of like AI is the holy grail. It's going to save me from everything. No, it's not. All right. It's not going to replace you. It's not going to replace your voice and all. It's going to give you some efficiencies and scales and things like that. But don't ever think that's going to replace you or the personal human connection. Right. So I love ChatGPT. As a matter of fact, we're coming out with version 3 of our class in January because of these new, voices you can give it, and it understands and learns you a little bit more. And you can create these kind of custom little use cases for GPT. That's really, really cool. Those are some of the things we're teaching real estate agents. We're giving agents like this guide. It's got like 40 prompts every real estate agent should be using for ChatGPT, right? To help facilitate them get off to a fast start. So that's a huge, think about that. You're a loan officer. That's a conversation starter. Google Bard, I've played with a little bit. I like it. I tend to go to ChatGPT more often just because, that's the default. And then there's all these other tools, man, like, the video editing tool, Opus, right? Opus that does the video clips. I've been playing with that. That's actually pretty good, man, after
Yeah.
testing. So I think that is an exciting time for us to be alive right now with what's going on there. Yeah.
Well, I love the fact that you called it out as a new skill. Like that it is a new skill. Creating a total cost analysis, it's a skill.
Yeah.
Um, you know, creating, that Friday video that Sean talked about in the interview I did before this, that's a skill. You know, doing a training for realtors. These are all skills, but the mortgage professionals that have these skills will absolutely dominate, like disrupt or die. they
Mhm.
will be the disruptors and the change agents going forward, and I truly believe that. One last question on this real estate
Mhm.
sea shift taking place. Neither one of us are experts on it, but I
Mhm.
interviewed Mitch Kiter. It will
Mhm.
actually hit our YouTube channel today.
Cool.
He said that he thought it was going to happen faster than we
Really?
realized. And I
Hmm.
would just love to know, because you talk to so many smart people, what is your take? Is it going to happen faster, later? Anything you're hearing out there? Any opinions you have?
It's interesting. I mean, I would default to Mitch on him being one of the up close and personal experts on that, right? But it's funny. Have you heard this rumblings from agents in other states like Washington, et cetera, that's already happened there?
Yeah, yeah. No, I've heard that it's happening in different ways, but I haven't drilled down on that. I don't know exactly what that means.
Well, for one agent, I heard explain that had already happened in Washington, I believe it was, and that it was business as usual. And that there was just now it's the proper disclosures up front that, do you understand that by paying this 5 or 6%, right, 2.5 or whatever is going right to the buyers. Now that was before this lawsuit. However, some of these what do you call them? The real estate, in the local state, the board of realtors and all that kind of stuff, and the commissioner and all that kind of jazz have their own laws that they've already put in place around agency and representation and things like that. So I don't know. I'm just a believer that ultimately, things work themselves out like this, and that we'll find a way. I don't know. I interviewed Greg Scher the other day, and he was talking about how Fannie Mae, right? Maybe there's some type of a, if there's it winds up being a cost to the buyers, it's somehow integrated into the loan or something. I mean, I don't know. I'd love to hear. I'm looking forward to Mitch's conversation, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, check it out. My closing thought on that is, it is chaos, and there will be opportunity for those that make the most of it. Any closing thoughts you have? Anything you want to wrap it up around?
Yeah, I would say the last thing is this. So, what was it? Last Friday, how many working days are there left in the year now? It's 15, something like that,
Yeah,
17.
not a lot.
Yeah. And so, a
And by
lot.
the way, they're not all working days, because like we all have holiday fever now. So
That is
it's
true.
different.
That is very true. Yeah. So my question is like, what can you do with the working days that are left? So yeah, it's holidays. We want to take time, family, and all that kind of jazz. I get that, right? Let's be real. We're going to do that. But what do you? And I think kind of Sean talked about this too. Is like, what are you putting in place to build momentum? Like on our coaching call, somebody mentioned this phrase, which I loved it, which was this is actually a Wally phrase I saw from years ago, which was Q4 hustle for Q1 muscle,
Ooh,
right?
I like that.
Yeah. Shout out to Wally for that. And that's what I'm kind of coaching around right now is what can you do for the remaining days of this year that's going to build momentum so that plane is already got momentum on that runway. By the time January 1 comes around, you better already have some forward stick motion on that thing, right? So it's already getting ready to take off. And what does that come back to full circle? It comes back to conversations equals contracts. Like that's it. Talk to more. This is what I meant with like AI. It's like the bright shiny object. We get so like geeked out on the tech and this and that. It's just like, what is the purpose of all of this? Is to have a conversation. That's it. So that better be what you're optimizing for. I guess I'll close on that.
Yeah, no, really, really good close. And I started the separation season interview with Jeremy last Tuesday, and we early in the call in the first 5 minutes, said spring home buying season starts now.
Mm.
It was like the 1st of December, and
Right.
spring home buying season starts now. And that's kind of to your point, like what actions you do in these last 15 days will lead to how productive your January and February are. And your
Mm-hmm.
January and February will define spring home buying season and how successful you are. So hopefully, guys, do the planning. Make sure you follow that link, mortgagemarketing.pro, not .com, mortgagemarketing.pro. That's the thing. There'll be a link down below in show notes. Click on that. Follow this guy. Check out one of his interviews on his podcast. I was going to tell him to check out mine, but that was like years ago.
Gonna get you
Uh,
back in the new year.
yeah, we'll hit you back. And also, I want to introduce you to Kristen Messerly. Would
Mm-hmm.
love for you to interview her at some point. Consider that. And Dude, really appreciate this conversation. Thank you so much for the leadership role you have in our industry. You make our industry better. And I really appreciate you, Geoff.
Appreciate it, man.
Right on, bro. Have a great holiday.
You too.